president of Family Watch International. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary of our organization that was founded here in Arizona this year. And we have over 80,000 members, about 4,000 of them here in Arizona. Most of them reside in over 170 countries. And we've been working on issues of family, sexuality, education for children, and in specifically sex education for many, many years. And I'm going to give you kind of the rationale why SB1082 was needed. I think it's a tragedy that it was mischaracterized as an anti-gay bill. I'll draw your attention to the World Health Organization definition for sexuality, because Senator Allen established a definition for sex education that included the word human sexuality. And the World Health Organization defined sexuality to encompass sexual orientation and gender identity, among other things. So any news, reports that you heard saying that somehow she was trying to prohibit or ban discussions of LGBT issues are completely false, because those would be encompassed under the term human sexuality. In fact, that definition of the World Health Organization is used all across the world, and I don't think anybody would deny that that term includes those issues. But what's important about that bill is it defines and clarifies a lot of the parental rights issues that have been violated across our state. And I'm going to tell you some of the programs that we know that we have evidence of that are federally funded in our state. But I'm going to start with, this is about children. It's simply about children, and I want to keep this in the framework of this is for children of minor age. Those who are adults certainly can make all the choices that they want, but our statutes are very clear that parents have the fundamental right to guide their education and their moral upbringing. Now, you may ask why I'm telling you about my kids. This is Luisha, Melanie, and Afonso, who we adopted in Mozambique. But it took about 7 years. I'm going back and forth from the country of Mozambique. This is when I first became aware of the comprehensive sexuality education agenda. It was when Amelia came home with a backpack with a little booklet. She was 9 years old, just a little innocent girl, in the middle of an AIDS pandemic. Her mom and her father had died of AIDS, and I cared for their older brother as he died from AIDS. And here she comes home with a booklet that tells her how to engage in anal and oral sex with pictures. Okay? And I'm like, how did this happen? Who would do this? Then I started going around and seeing all these messages all around in the orphanages and everywhere I went in the different countries. We were putting forward an HIV/AIDS prevention program, and it would say things like, play safe, wear a condom, okay, in the middle of an AIDS pandemic, without telling the children the failure rates, especially for children, the higher failure rates for children who use condoms. Now, as I started studying this, I've been studying it for this, what we call the war on children, for 15 years, and it's a deliberate agenda to sexualize children, which may sound far-fetched, but I'm going to show you the evidence of this here in Arizona. And you can see our documentary with a lot of the evidence, international, national, of these contents in these programs at our website. You can go to waronchildren.org. I'll just bring to your attention the International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education. Again, it defines sexuality to include the things that people were saying Senator Allen wanted to exclude from hers. But I draw your attention because the World Health Organization sets the standards for the world, and they have redefined abstinence to mean, abstinence means choosing not to have sex, which most people would agree with, but it also means deciding when to start having sex with whom. Later on, it says CSE promotes the right to decide who and when you're going to have sex with. So this is the right to sex for children. Now you may say that's not relevant. That's the UN with all those agencies. It has nothing to do with Arizona. But that same definition was being put forward at the TUSD district debate over, the sex ed committee. They were trying to redefine abstinence there. And I'll show you another example of a program that redefines abstinence. And the bottom line of the philosophy behind these sex education programs is the philosophy is it's perfectly normal that all sex acts are perfectly normal for children at any age as long as they're consensual and as long as they use so-called protection. Now that may be hard to believe, but there's a federal funding stream for these these programs. It comes on under the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Program of HHS, of our federal government. And they give grants, and in order to receive a grant, you have to apply using one of these programs that they have deemed evidence-based and effective. They're called the TPP, Teen Pregnancy Prevention Programs. So ETR is the company that you have to buy it through. And here is one of them that got funding in Arizona. It's called Making a Difference. It's for 12-year-olds to 14-year-olds. In it, it has a question, has a worksheet. This is just an example. How do people express their sexual feelings? What is abstinence? Okay. And it says, elicit as many answers as you can from the students. And it has things like anal sex, oral sex, holding hands, touching each other's genitals, saying I like you. They're equating all of this with how children should be or could be expressing their sexual feelings. Again, federally funded in Arizona. Here's where you can see some of the answers, even sexual fantasy. Another one on that list that's gotten federal funding in the state of Arizona is Making Proud Choices. Now, we're not against protection for children who are sexually active. I want to be very clear on that. But the way they teach children sexualizes them, okay? Sexual arousal, it teaches, you got to do that step. You got to arouse the person sexually before they can use a condom, how to do it, cuddle, kiss, massage, and all the details and orgasm. Continue playing and stimulating with one another. Again, this is for 12-year-olds. I have 7 children, and I know that those ages, when you're hitting puberty, these issues are very, very prevalent in your mind and can be affected by those kind of teachings. Another one, federal funding in Arizona is Draw the Line, Respect the Line. Again, now some risk, just some risk, is mouth to genitals. Now I want you to think about that. Did you know that mouth to genitals is a felony for children to engage in our state? Did you know that? And yet this is being taught to the children that it's just some risk, even though it can land them in jail. Some couples complain that condoms reduce the feelings. This is more for adults. This is not for 12-year-olds. Again, Maricopa County got a grant under this TPP program. They created the Collective Steps for Youth project to train everybody else how to teach children sex education. And 2 of those programs that I just showed you are on their list they advertised last year, that teachers could be trained or other people that could volunteer to be trained on how to teach those programs in our schools. Okay? This is the Collective Youth. And here are their partners. They're bringing in other partners from outside to be a part of this Collective Hub for Youth. I'm also the co-chair of something called the Protect Child Health Coalition, which is a national coalition. And we've been helping people fight these kind of programs that sexualize children all across our nation. And now the fight has come here because we realize these programs are here now. If you go to this website, which is one of our projects at stopcse.org, we have analysis of all these programs. You can click on the tab at the top, CSE Materials Exposed, and on the right-hand side of this website, you'll see links to all these programs that we have analyzed. If you click on them, you'll see our analysis based on 15 harmful elements that we have identified. And most of the ones in Arizona have scored 13 to 15 for the harmful elements for children that we have identified. The analysis looks something like this. It has the harmful element on the left, and then it just simply takes quotes from the manual. So you can look yourself and decide whether those are appropriate for children. We also have a CSE map, so you can click on Arizona. You'll see Arizona's state profile that talks about our laws and all the different things around sex ed. But this shows you which programs got federal funding in Arizona and who got the federal funding. And again, the ones in red are the ones that are on our website that we've analyzed with the 15 harmful elements analysis tool. This is the Arizona Department of Health Services Title V State Sexual Risk Avoidance Education Program. They applied for a grant as well for $1.5 million. And you'll note that 2 of the programs they applied to get that grant for in 2018, one of them was Making a Difference, the one I quoted from, and one of these other programs, I think it's the Wyman Teen Outreach Program we're doing an analysis on now, and it has a lot of the same difficult things that we are upset about, that we feel should not be taught to children. You're going to hear a lot of testimony today, I believe, the experts that flew in about the harms for children, regardless of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. When children engage in sex, there's more negative outcomes in their lives. Family Watch takes its positions based on medical and scientific evidence, peer-reviewed research, and what has proven to bring the best outcomes for children, families, men, women, and children. And we can tell you that all the research that's been amassed for hundreds of years regarding children and sexual activity says that children who avoid sexual activity do better on almost everything that you can measure. We plead with you on behalf of our children. These are parents rising up. I have lots of slides all across the world. This is the battle of our times. It's the battle over the hearts and minds, but the health of our children. We need you to bring this bill forward. We need you to convince the Senate President to let this bill be heard. There's so many elements in there. I have received testimony from multiple people across our state where their parental rights have been violated. And I'll just end because when you introduced Senator Borelli from Lake Havasu, you may be aware of the problem that was there. There was a school board meeting. There was violations left and right of parental rights and the sex education code, where they found they had a program that was called Smart Girls and Wise Guys that had been taught for 10 years without board approval. 10 years. Now we went and analyzed that program, not with our full analysis, but I found an activity in that program where they had kids vote their values. Now remember, the law says the parents have the right to bring the moral and educational upbringing of their children here in Arizona. But vote your values. They put a sign in one corner of the room that says yes, another sign that said no, one that said unsure, and they asked a series of questions. And the children had to go to vote their values. And then it instructed the teacher to say, are you sure you don't want to change your mind? Are you sure you don't want to change your values right now here in this classroom? And they had kids defending their values. You may think that's appropriate. You may not. But if you don't know that's going on in the classroom, you don't have a chance to opt your child in or out. And Senator Allen's bill, SB1082, closed the many loopholes. We found maybe 15 different violations that have been going on to get around the current statutes because they're vaguely worded or they're not clear. I'll just end with the biggest one for me is that HIV education is not treated the same as sex education. And the last time I looked, the only way you can teach children prevention about HIV is by giving them sex education regarding how to protect themselves. So why are those two things treated separately? Why is one opt-in? It just doesn't make sense. I have 7 children. I have 8 grandchildren. The last one was just born a couple weeks ago. And my oldest, who you saw from Mozambique, he just moved back to the state with his 2 children. He's living here in the Phoenix area, going to the ASU, Thunderbird School of Business. And I care about what they're going to be taught in these schools. And I think all these parents that are here care about it. We plead with you to bring back HB 1082 because it will protect the health and innocence of Arizona's children, and it will protect the rights of parents throughout Arizona to protect their children. Thank you.